good morning, folks. I'm back. Sorry about last week. I was pretty sick. I tried to start doing the stream, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't think straight. My head was just all in a fog. So not great for doing Houdini. But I'm back, and thank you for joining me. Happy Easter if you celebrate it. I had a good Easter egg hunt with my boy yesterday. We had a lot of fun. But now we're trying to stop him from eating all the chocolate at once. What was I going to say? I was going to keep talking about the chocolate. I thought today I might try something. As you can see in the background here, I have a lava lamp that I got yesterday at a market. It's not very good, actually. It's kind of a bit foggy. But I've always wanted to try and do a lava lamp in 3D. So I thought I might give it a go and see what happens. I don't really have a plan, but I don't usually have a plan, so no change there. And yeah, I thought I might just try it out. So it's going to be in flip. The interesting thing with lava lamps is, you have this heating and cooling effect that happens. So it's a very cool thing. I mean, they were very popular in the 60s and 70s, but I think people think they're a bit kind of naff nowadays. But as someone that's interested in fluids and simulation, they're actually amazing things to watch. So I highly recommend getting one. Maybe we can start a resurgence of lava lamps. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on. There's a bulb in the bottom which is heating this wax that's inside a fluid. I assume it's maybe water. It might be something else. Or water with additives, maybe. We could probably look that up. I'm sure the information's out there. So there's wax inside, and the wax melts, and when it heats up and melts, it rises to the top. And as it rises to the top, it gets further away from the heat source down the bottom and cools. And then it falls back down, and it creates this kind of cycle. You weren't born in the 60s or 70s, Rizwan. Well, neither was I, to be honest. But that's alright. I can still appreciate things from that era. And in fact, that is the era I appreciate things the most from. I love music from that era, especially. But yeah, so yeah, that doesn't matter. Have you seen a lava lamp before? Do you know what I'm talking about? Hey, David, how you going? Thanks for joining me. Happy Easter. If you celebrate Easter. I celebrate chocolate. That's the main thing I care about. So let's jump in. Let me share my screen here. I also have a backup camera today. I have camera 2. It's not as nice as camera 1, but just in case my camera fails again, hopefully I can switch to camera 2. Let me know if my audio also, as always, if my audio is no good, let me know. Try and fix it. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is model the shape of my lava lamp so that I can have a container for my fluid. Yeah, I mean, before I had a kid, Easter didn't really mean much apart from giving each other chocolate to me either. And I'm not religious. But since having a kid, it's sort of taken on a whole new meaning. Which is fun. Yeah, it's kind of nice. But yeah, before that, it wasn't really anything except a holiday for me. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to just go into front view. In Australia, I don't know about everywhere else in the world, but in Australia, Easter is a 4-day weekend as well. So that's the biggest part of it here. Everyone goes on holidays. Hey, John, how you going? I'm back. I hope you're feeling well as well. I'm going to put down a curve, and I'm going to just draw out a rough shape of the lava lamp. So, just have a look. Yeah, it's like this kind of shape. That might be a bit broad. So I'll just hit enter there, and then I'm going to use a revolve to create the shape. Hey, Hey Audrey, how you going? Thanks for joining me. If you missed my little intro there, I'm truly sorry about missing last week. I definitely didn't want to do that. I just could not bring myself to use Houdini. I was feeling a bit average. All right, so even that's probably fine. You know, doesn't have to be crazy subdivisions. Let me just do that. That looks fine. I'm sure you were. What are we gonna do without 1 week of Houdini nonsense? Well, I'm glad to be back at it. I hope I don't have a coughing fit today, but hopefully I'll be fine. I've got my tea and my water. Oh, that looks a bit bad. You tend to get. That's right. Well, I'm gonna do some more goo today, but it's gonna be controlled, a bit more controlled, a bit less farty and gross. Hopefully. Well, you never know. Who knows what will happen. The lava lamp is just a disc, then you bevel up. No, you weren't paying attention. I drew a curve for the profile of the lava lamp, and then I revolved the lava lamp like a lathe. No sound effects, we were deprived. Yeah, that's right. A revolve is like a lathe, basically. It's called lathe in other software. It has all sorts of different names, but it basically just rotates that profile around to create a complete 3D shape. You could extrude and bevel a circle if you wanted to as well. But this gives you a bit more control if you're going for anything, you know, slightly more complex. I'm just putting a fuse there to fuse those dodgy ends. And then let's think about what we're going to do in flip. So I'm going to just basically create a sphere here. And this can be my starting blob of wax. I have a lot of, you know, kind of doubts about doing this, like in terms of whether I'll be able to get it to work or not. But I mean, I'll be able to get something working, but the very specific behavior that I've noticed in lava lamps is that the blobs stay completely kind of separate when they float up the top. They don't join together, and that's something that I'm not sure if I'll be able to replicate. Maybe, we'll see. So I'm going to fill that with points. 0.05. That's fine. Yeah. So that's kind of it. All I need for my my source. Just points. I'll jitter those. Jitter scale. Say out source. Don't need to be too fancy with flip source. Just needs to be points really. And then so let's just go into a dot network and put down a flip solver and volume source. Actually, yeah, volume source. Actually, no. I think I can do it with just a flip object. Let's see. Sometimes, I don't know, I might switch back to using the volume source, but with a flip object, you have this, you can bring in under initial data, you can bring in a particle field. And by default, it has a default particle field, which is just a cube. But you can actually point it to one that you've created, and that will bring it in just in one on the first frame. It won't continually source. So that you know, that can be quite useful when you're just bringing in a blob or something that you want to do stuff with. So what else am I going to do here? I don't want gravity. I'm going to do a whole bunch of custom forces. I've got my resolution here, so let's use this. I'll copy particle separation and link that to point separation on the points from volume. Good work, Audrey. You made a castle, Rizwan. Very nice. What sort of castle is it? Don't say a castle-y castle. Is it like a medieval castle? Fantasy castle? So there we go. I've got my points. If I hit play, nothing will happen. We can actually see a couple of little points getting created there. This is super small as well. Maybe my scale. Let's have a look at my scale here. Should be alright. But I can see some points getting created there, and what that reminds me is that reseeding is on. So I'll turn reseeding off. What that tries to do is keep a consistent number of particles, but it also changes the point count every frame, and that's usually not helpful when I want to do very custom things. So if I hit play now, you can see it's just nothing's changing. Now we know that the wax inside the, well, I know that the wax inside the lava lamp is very viscous as well, so I'm going to turn on viscosity, and I'm going to do viscosity by attribute, and I'm going to put an attribute on my source here at viscosity equals, I don't know, let's go 1000. And we can sort of do some testing as well. Just put like put a gravity down and a ground plane, and just do some testing as to what that viscosity looks like. So let's just hit play on that, and you can see, you know, it's very kind of gooey, and oh look, yeah, it's not too bad, 1000. So you can play around with that value though, and you'll see different behavior kind of coming on. You can see 100 spreads out a lot less. So that's a good way to test, but we're not going to use that. Now we are going to need a, whoops, let me just bring that through there. We're going to need a collider for our bottle, the glass container for our lava lamp. So let's turn this into a VDB. And there's a really cool trick that you can do when you want to just create a container like this, which the flip cannot leave. Yeah, John, you will use a static object, but let me show you something. So one thing you can see with the VDB is that it actually gives you those very hard edges of the polygonal shape. So I might go to my revolve and let's up the divisions like that. We can even resample the curve, and that will give us, oops, like that. Oh, that's kind of nasty. Well, it's interesting. It's not what I was expecting. Resample. What is this? So that puts extra points down, but the revolve. Oh, there we go. Oh, the fuse. The fuse. Now I want a mac and cheese. You're making me hungry. There we go. So the VDB from polygons now looks a bit smoother with extra divisions and extra samples. Actually, the resample doesn't seem to be necessary. But the VDB from polygons is definitely necessary. Now, what we can do is say out, and we don't actually even need the geometry. We're just going to use the volume here. And I'm going to say out, collision, VDB. And then let's go, I'll just get rid of this actually, I don't need this anymore. Let's go static object, merge. And I'm not going to use any of this stuff up here. I'm going to use collisions though, and volume sample. And then proxy volume is out collision VDB. We see nothing. Let's turn our collision guide on. So you can see at the moment, it's actually the opposite of what we want. But you have this checkbox here, invert sign. And this display isn't helpful, but invert sign is basically going to make this a container rather than a collision. Like at the moment, it would work as a collision. If something was coming in, it would splat against it. But if you tick on that invert sign, it turns this into a container and things cannot leave. They cannot go outside it. So it kind of inverts the volume. So it's really, really handy, and you don't need to use any of the other stuff up here. So the way to visualize this would be to turn on the collision guide here. Now if I hit play, you can see, there we go, you can see that it's now a container and all outside it is collision. So it cannot go outside it. This will just be a solid collision for forever. Let's make our bounds a little smaller as well so we can zoom a little easier. go. And you can also make this collision guide a slice. Yeah, that's right, John. It makes it a void. So you can make, I think, what am I using here? Yeah, use plane. So you can see that there. When I use plane, you can see that kind of hole. Let's put a pop force down. I'll just plug that into particle velocity, and I'll just give this some upward direction. And you'll see this hit the top of the bottle. There we go. So we've got something going on. We've got a collider, at least. It's not mac and cheese is not a meal that I have frequently enjoyed. I'm sorry to say, I must be missing out. So let's actually make this a bit more viscous. So I'll go 1000. Oh, look at that! It's actually so viscous that it's touching the sides of the bottle. It looks like, and because viscosity also creates stickiness, it's sticking to the sides. So we can turn on slip-on collision. Well, if you have any recipe tips, I don't know how easy or difficult it is to make, but I do like pasta. No, yeah, they have not. I think it like, to be honest, it's a very American meal, mac and cheese. Although, you know, we obviously have it here, but it's probably not as popular here as it would be in America. There we go. So slip scale of 1 gets it sliding all the way to the top. Hot sauce. Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. Excuse me for coughing. Yeah, so I don't know. I reckon we probably want it to slip fully so that it doesn't get stuck to the edges. Well, I would tend to agree with you there, John. Homemade is always better than something out of a packet. Vegemite? Vegemite mac and cheese. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that people do that. Oh, are you saying what's Vegemite, Audrey? I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail from all the Australians out there, but I despise Vegemite. It's like this kind of... It's like a spread, right? People have it for breakfast, but not always for breakfast. It's like, you know, you might have peanut butter, you might have Vegemite. It's, yeah, like John says, it's yeast. It's a byproduct of beer manufacturing, I think, is how they came up with it. But yeah, it's like a yeast-based spread, and it's super salty. It's like, it kind of tastes like, and I actually like this flavor, but I don't like it in spread form. It kind of tastes like when you do a roast or something and you caramelize and get a bit of burnt sort of stuff, like if you roast a pumpkin or something and you get this caramelized burnt stuff. That is really nice. But yeah, in a spread, I find it just incredibly salty, and I do not love it. But there we go. There's my outrageous statement for the day. Apart from the fact that I don't eat mac and cheese. All right. So what are we doing? What am I doing? I've got this working, which is great. But now I need to start kind of concocting some kind of. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's an experience. Camping in the Grampians. That sounds nice. It's very nice up there in the Grampians. Lots of kangaroos and emus as well. Did you see any wildlife, David? So yeah, I need to come up with this kind of heating and cooling system. And I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but let's create a heat kind of. How dare you? Let's create a heater down the bottom. And what am I going to do? How am I going to do that? I'm going to... Oh, cool. That sounds great, David. I've never done that. I have been to the Grampians a long time ago, but it's beautiful there. I'm going to put down a SOP solver. And in here, I'm going to create an object. So I'm going to create a sphere right at the base here. And from here, I'm going to transfer some heat. I don't know, like heat is not a thing in Flip, like it might be in Pyro, but I'm just going to make it up. And that's the cool thing about, you know, all this stuff, is that you can just make up your own little system for heating and cooling. So I'm going to call this temperature, why not? In fact, I'm going to call it temp, because it's my attribute and I don't want to write temperature all the time, because I always misspell it. So I'm going to call this temp equals 1. And I'm going to actually copy this attribute wrangle, go outside. Oh, actually, I'll just put it on here. At temp equals 0. So I'll start off with a 0 temperature. And then in here, I'm going to transfer a value of 1. Here comes the Australians to defend the Vegemite. I am so salty. I'm like a big jar of Vegemite when it comes to Vegemite. What am I going to do? Attribute transfer? Maybe. Let's try. I think I need to get a bit more crafty than this, but let's just create a simple scenario first. So I'm going to transfer... I might transfer color as well, because that'll be a really good indicator of, you know, what's happening. So let's transfer some red, and we'll make our... I'll turn my... when you're dealing with color, you want to turn off your visualization, set it to none, and turn off my point display, and color my points. So I'm just going to do it in here, why not? CD equals 0. That should set them black. There we go. So now we should see our transfer color. Is it true that McDonald's fries have a reflective box to scare the birds? Is that really something that you've heard? That's hilarious, but no, not true as far as I know. John, could you make 2 liquids of different viscosity? Yeah, well, that's an interesting idea. Yes, you could make 2 liquids of different densities, and one will rise. Yeah, I mean, we could look at doing that. I was thinking of not having another liquid, because that does make it more tricky. But maybe changing the density. Interesting. I'm going to keep going with this heat one for a second, but that might be a good thing to try. Might be an interesting one to try. So transfer temp. So I'm just going to take this down. So we should see. There we go. So we can see that there. And yeah, okay. So what I am going to do, I'm going to put. I'm totally just, you know, this is all just making it up as I go along. I have no idea what, you know, how this is all going to work, but hopefully it'll work. So we do need it to fall down. So we'll have some force, some negative force in there. And in France, that's all we talk about. Just you heard that? Oh, that's. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe that was something that happened once, but no, we don't. We don't have reflective boxes for our fries. I did have a McDonald's box that my son was playing with somewhere. I think it's gone. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how. There's a lot of funny rumors about Australia that you know, that people from overseas think it's quite hilarious. I was always surprised, like when I lived in the UK for a little bit, and you tell anybody that you're from Australia, and they're like, "Oh, I would never go there. It's far too dangerous. Too many snakes, too many spiders." And I think like the last time I saw a snake was probably 10 years ago. it's not the sort of thing that you see all the time. If you go out into the bush, you go hiking, you might see some, but very rarely. What am I making? Oh, hey, Mickey. Welcome. Good to see you again. Chinbar, what am I making? I am making a lava lamp. I'm trying to make a simulation that mimics the behavior of a lava lamp. So I have one in the background. You can't see the behavior. It's actually kind of not a great one because it's very cloudy. But basically what I'm trying to do at the moment is I've got this little sphere here and I'm transferring an attribute called temp and some color to my flip points so that as they fall towards the bottom, they get this color, but also a temperature. And then what I could do in a pop wrangle, maybe instead of my force, I could say, let's see, at force.y, don't listen to David, he's telling lies. There's none of those things here. No, well, look, yeah, I mean, when you're camping, you can definitely find those things, but like in day-to-day life, I do not encounter snakes and spiders or scorpions. Although, yeah, I get the occasional scorpion. Yeah, the cockatoos. If you happen to live near where a lot of cockatoos are, they are quite screechy and ear piercing. So I'm going to do at force.y equals fit at temp between 0 and 1. And I'm going to make, when the temperature is 0, I'm going to make the force -2. And when the temperature is 1, I'm going to make the force positive. So what this should cause is, when it's got this black value, when it's 0, it should fall down to the bottom. But as it gets red, it should start to rise, hopefully. See what happens. Oh, look at this. Hey, something's happening. It's alive! Wow. Cool. So, hey Luke, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. Yeah, I think, like, Adam, the Huntsmans, it's kind of funny with Huntsmans. I find, like, you can be, depends which house you're in, like, you can have a lot, or you can have, you know, not very many. Like, I just moved to this house, I guess about a year and a half ago, and I haven't had any Huntsmans here. Yeah, it's a good chat we've got going on here, Luke. And there's some weird things happening on my Houdini, but I'm loving seeing this behavior because, you know, it's kind of the start of something beautiful. So let's the reason it's all staying together is because of viscosity. So one thing with viscosity that's difficult when you're trying to do things that are changing. Oh yeah, I'm sure a 120-year-old house is just it's made of Huntsmans. Held together by spiders. So I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, viscosity. So when you're trying to do things with variable viscosity, where you're changing the viscosity, the issue with viscosity is that it's a blurring effect that happens on velocities. So when you have two things that are next to each other that are different viscosities, or maybe this one doesn't even actually have different viscosities at the moment. It's just one is getting a force and the other's getting a force. But they're stuck together because they're viscous. So we may need to change the viscosity or try and kind of, you know, try and break those sections apart maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the best approach is. And this is, you know, I kind of expressed before that I wasn't sure if I'd be able to achieve certain aspects of the look of this. Because of that viscosity. What are those creatures? Oh, what are Huntsmans? Huntsmans are basically they're not super large, but they can get very big. They're spiders. They're not poisonous. They can bite, but they're usually pretty, you know, pretty scared of humans, so they do kind of run away. But a lot of people are very, very scared of them. I don't mind them. They're okay. Charlotte in Charlotte's Web, I think, is a huntsman, isn't it? So the viscosity has a fall off to neighboring points. Yes, it does. Because it's a blurring effect. Because blur, you know, kind of goes across the points. And it's actually a blurring of the velocity field, which is a volume. So the volume goes everywhere. It's not just restricted to the points themselves. So it blurs across them, and you get this. You know, if you made a group of one little chunk and made that highly viscous and everything else not viscous, you would get that chunk be very viscous, but a lot of the points around it as well would get fall off to 0. So yeah, that's just something that you have to deal with when you're dealing with variable viscosity. What is that? What is it indeed? So I'm trying to make a lava lamp here, and it's not, you know, it's not quite working at the moment, but it's you know, it's on its way. I'm trying to build it. Huntsmans are just a tad smaller than pickup trucks. They in the north, in the far north of Australia, and the further north you go, I think the bigger they get. Down here, they're only kind of, you know, that big, and that's mostly legs, but they can get, you know, kind of quite large. And that's the pictures that you see, is those giant ones. But, you know, they're fine. They're alright. I don't mind them. I like Huntsmans more than I like Vegemite. Let's say that. Feedback on One Division. What does that mean, Tunebar? Tunebar says, since when have you been editing on Houdini? Do you mean how long have I been using Houdini for? I think that's what you mean. I have been using Houdini for, I don't know how long, maybe 6 years or something. I've been doing 3D for about 15 years or so, VFX and 3D and animation, but I used to use 3D Studio Max for a long time, and then in about, I'm going to say 2014, something like that, Houdini started becoming much more popular. Oh, there's some interesting things happening here. Houdini started becoming, you know, much more popular in studios and across the VFX kind of world. So I had to change. It was... Yeah, I think that's that show, right, with the robot guy. I've seen an ad for that, but I'm not up on my my current TV shows. Is that the one, the black and white one with the robot guy? I have no idea what it's about, but I think I've seen it. I'm just going to turn on the surface here. Have a look at that surface. So you can see we are getting some interesting behavior going on. You know, it's not perfect, and we're getting the whole blob kind of going up. But we're getting these areas of black falling down. And actually, we're getting it happening before I've even set up the cooling happening up here. So that's kind of interesting. I guess it's because these black ones are getting pulled up, and then their force is, they're still getting -4 here, so they're getting pulled back down. So let's add another one of these spheres up the top. And in fact, I'm not going to do distance, I'm going to do blend, so it blends that value on. And now I'm going to copy this sphere up to the very top. It's a little hard to see, so I'm just going to object merge in my... And I could set this all up in SOPs. So, Tunebar, do you think working with particles is better on 3ds Max or Houdini? Well, Houdini, certainly. It's there's no question there that it is much more easy to create like super customizable setups in Houdini compared to 3ds Max. Now, as a 3ds Max user, for a long time, I was completely in love with particle flow, P-flow. And when I switched to Houdini, I absolutely hated pops, the way that they did particles. And it took me a very long time to kind of come to terms with it and get used to it. The difference is that P-flow and, you know, the other kind of methods for particles in Max, there are plugins and other things now. It was all event based, so you would determine when things would happen based on a frame number or based on a collision. But in pops, you can do that, but you have to do it yourself. It's all customizable, like custom, you know, it'd have to be through if statements or things like that. So, you know, working in film and working, you know, on shots where I had to have things happen at specific times, I really liked using that event-based system because I could trigger something to happen at a very specific time. But yeah, so it took me a long time to kind of get used to the way that it works in Houdini. But now that I have gotten used to it, I would never ever go back. Doing VFX in Max, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. But you know, you hit these brick walls all the time. Limitations with the software. It's buggy. It crashes all the time. And there are just walls that you will hit and you cannot get over them without creating some silly kind of hack, or, you know, it's a bit of a half-assed attempt at trying to create that effect. But in Houdini, there are no limitations, only your knowledge. So it's liberating working in an environment where you can do literally everything that you need to do, and you don't have to fight against the software. The only thing you're fighting against is, you know, your own understanding of how it works, and that is no small thing either. So, do I use Redshift? Yes, I do, and in fact, I specifically opened up. Let me save this. I specifically opened up my version of Houdini 18 today because that is the version that I have Redshift in. So I'm going to hopefully, let me just save this, lava lamp. I'm going to hopefully try and render this out if I get a result. So what I've done here is I've just duplicated that setup. I've put that sphere at the top, and I brought that in just so I could line it up. And then I'm transferring temperature 0 again. So let's see what happens with that. Is Houdini always node-based? Can you do the primitive way? Look, it is mostly node-based. There are some, when you're modeling, there are some kind of destructive ways of modeling, I guess, but all that stuff usually gets put down as a node. I think the thing when you're modeling in Houdini is just to ignore a lot of what's going on in the network view, because you'll see a lot of different nodes being created. Well, I think we're going to need some more time in my timeline here so we can appreciate this over the full duration. So yeah, it is node based. That's just the way it works. But when you're modeling, I think it's better to kind of ignore all the nodes that are getting created when you're doing various things to your model, and just focus on what's going on in the viewport, just like you would in 3ds Max or Maya. And then when you've got all these nodes, you can just subnet them to collapse them down to a single node and just hide all that process. So now that we've given that a few more frames, I can kind of see, just turn on real time, I can see that there are some kind of lava lampy things going on. It's very quick, so I want to slow this down. But you can see it's rising and falling. It's hitting the top, cooling down, and then falling back down. Now this is the part that I'm unsure of how to solve, because the lava lamp, the real one, is very kind of it maintains these spheres, these blobs. They're perfectly blobby. But this one gets very stretchy and stringy because of that blurring of viscosity and velocity and all that stuff. We haven't turned on surface tension yet, so that's probably a good thing that we could try turning on. And that may help create blobs. Don't know. Try it. You can see it's all pretty quick at the moment. We could even try turning on OpenCL, but I don't think we need to. It's pretty fast. Turning on OpenCL doesn't always give you a benefit. My graphics card isn't the top of the line, so my CPU probably will solve it better than my graphics card will. But OpenCL is good for viscous simulations because it takes that viscous calculation and moves it to the graphics card. It's not fully graphics card when it's running OpenCL anyway. It's like a hybrid. So, yeah. Now we may see with surface tension on that we get a lot more kind of blobs sticking together. This is also, low resolution, so maybe increasing the resolution might help as well. Now one thing, at the moment, all I'm doing is transferring heat. So I'm just like, when it gets to the bottom, it gets this heat value and rises straight away. But I kind of want a more accumulated. So what happens, what I've observed with the real lava lamp, is, hey, is it Luce? I'm gonna hopefully get that right. Do you have any good tips at Vex? Look, there are lots of good resources out there, but one that I would highly recommend is one on Matt Estella's great website, tokaru.com, CG Wiki. And on there he has, let me see if I can bring this up. Tokaru CG Wiki. Here it is. So this is the website, tokaru.com. And if you go to Houdini, Vex, new to Vex, you might want to read The Joy of Vex. He's got this little kind of 20-part lesson that will give you a great introduction into Vex, from very basic to very complex. Right down here, you're looking at point clouds and primitive UVs. I guess it doesn't get like super duper complex, but then once you've done that, you can move on to his other kind of Vex page, which goes into more complex ideas. So that's a really good one. The Joy of Vex, yeah, that's right. Great title. He's even used the cover. There we go. An Impatient Guide to Wrangles. So I highly recommend having a look at that. His site is invaluable, and I use it all the time. Just have a look and see. Sometimes he's got some really good solutions to complex problems. Everybody was thinking it, Audrey. You were just the one that said it. So I definitely recommend checking that out. So, do you agree with me that After Effects is the perfect beginner program for starters? I don't. Well, I mean, it depends, I guess. And I started, After Effects was one of the first kind of compositing programs that I learned. But it depends what you want to do. I wouldn't agree that After Effects is the perfect starting program if you want to get into visual effects for film or games. It's not really the correct approach. It's kind of, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't done a lot of 3D stuff in After Effects, but I kind of think it's probably better to get into a 3D package if that's the sort of stuff that you want to do. Houdini, it has some barriers to learning. It is very difficult, but it's getting easier, and there are lots of resources out there. We offer an introduction course that sort of teaches people most of the basics and how to use all the solvers, or most of them. But there are lots of, there are lots of ways to get into Houdini now. But there are plenty of softwares out there. Blender is a good one to try. But if you're looking at, at getting a job or a career in the industry, and you want to do this sort of stuff, then don't mess about with with softwares that aren't really used, I guess, in the industry. But look, yeah, After Effects, it is a good, kind of easy software to use. It really depends, I guess, what you want to do with it. David, I actually just recorded a week tutorial for our course on creating a flock of bats. That's really funny. See me after class. I'll try and give you some pointers there. That's hilarious. What are you doing the bats for? Do I make tutorials? Yes, TuneBar. Well, I am the head of visual effects at CG Spectrum, which is an online school, and we offer courses. So head over to cgspectrum.com.edu.au and have a look at those if you're interested. But and I do these streams every week, which are free. But I don't make any other tutorials, just the ones for our course. Yeah, pretty funny, David. That's hilarious. I'll try and give you some pointers. So what I'm gonna do now, instead of just transferring temperature, CG Spectrum student here. Yeah, way to go, Audrey. We're getting a really good kind of community as well at CG Spectrum now, which is great. We've got so many students in lots of different disciplines, and the community is awesome. It's really just building all the time. So I think it's really really a fun kind of learning environment now, which is great. David, short intro shot with a mass of bats flying across the camera and curving around. Yeah, look, I mean, doing a very simple bat animation, maybe I can do a simple one for you. I don't know if I'll have time today, but yeah, that's right, Audrey. You've got Slack, so you can bother anyone. That is the difference that we're trying to communicate to people who haven't taken our courses, is that you have access to industry mentors. So all the mentors are working in the industry with lots of experience. If you get me, I've had 15 years in the sort of VFX and animation industry, so, and you can message me anytime you like. All my students, have that ability to message me whenever they get stuck or they have a question. They can ask me, and they meet with me every week. So we can talk about things, and I like to just tailor the course to whatever the student is interested in. So for me, that's really enjoyable. So what am I doing? I'm going to put an attribute wrangle down, and I'm going to plug this here into the second input. Is that what I want to do? No, you know what? I'm going to do the attribute transfer and then the attribute wrangle. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so I'm going to transfer temperature, but I'm actually going to transfer... Yeah, there's some like incredible mentors at CG Spectrum. Like the stuff that people have worked on is amazing. So temp equals 1. What am I going to do here? I'm going to call this temp add equals 1. And the reason I've called it something different is because I want to preserve the temperature coming down, and I'm going to do a little addition thing in here. So I'm going to create this temp add in here as well. So I'm going to say at temp add equals 0. And in here, so now I'm creating this temp add equals 1, and I'm transferring it. I need to change that, temp add, like that. And then what I'm going to do is I still have my temperature attribute, so I'm going to say at temp equals, or actually plus equals, at temp add. And now, instead of just setting that temperature to 1, whenever that transfer is in the distance, it is going to accumulate over time. So what we should see, and I might turn off my pop wrangle for a second because it's going to go crazy with the rising probably. But what I'm going to check, if I click on my flip object here and geometry, and we got temp and temp add. So let's have a look, temp and temp add. Hit play. So here's our temp add value, which is just going between 0 and 1. But you can see this accumulation here, this temperature, rising and rising. So you can see that it just goes up and up and up and up. So I can use that. Yeah, look, you know, it's we get paid for our time, and that's great, you know. But for me, you know, it's not just about money. It's about helping people and sharing knowledge. That's why I enjoy doing these streams as well, because I just love, one, I love solving problems, which is what VFX is, but I also like sharing this stuff and helping people. So, you know, that is a massive part of teaching in general. So I've got this accumulation now, and now I'm going to do it here as well. I'm going to do, I'll call this one temp add as well. And maybe with this one, I'll actually, what will I do? I'll do temp add equals 1 again here, and I'll transfer it again. Temp add. Or maybe I should call it something different. Maybe I should call it temp subtract. Just so I'm not kind of mixing up my values here. And then I'm going to do, in my attribute wrangle again, temp subtract. I'm going to do minus equals instead of plus equals. Do you guys have like free tutorials? Well, I mean, the streams are kind of the streams are the free stuff that we do, but they're not tutorials per se. It's an opportunity for you to, you know, watch me work and learn some things about how I work in Houdini, and also ask questions, of course. But yeah, we don't really do too many free tutorials. We may do some stuff in the future where we do like little short things here and there. Hey, thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, look, I think there is a benefit to just watching somebody work, and even though I'm not explicitly telling you what to do, I think there's a lot of value into seeing how somebody, you know, works in Houdini and the nodes that I use. Also, I don't use a lot of really complicated stuff. So a lot of these things are fairly easy for you to recreate if you watch back and try to follow along. Audrey, I don't think we're doing the free trials anymore. We weren't really getting a lot of people signing up to them. We have these introduction courses now, which, you know, are kind of designed to give you a taste of Houdini and to kind of get you into the mindset of how Houdini works, and show you how kind of all the solvers work, or most of them. And, you know, that's what we're trying to focus on now, is these intro courses. So I've got this temp subtract. So let's turn our pop wrangle back on now, and we've got our temperature, but let's now do 0 to 100, because we've got this accumulation happening. Yeah, well, I mean, that's right, David, and that is something that, you know, when I started doing this teaching, I've spent a lot of time thinking about the best way to learn Houdini and the best way to teach it, so I can be a better teacher. And that was the thing that I kind of realized, was that with a lot of tutorials, you don't see the process and the figuring out and the making mistakes and all that stuff. So that was one thing that I really wanted to add to our courses and, you know, to my streams and just to the way that I teach is to kind of not just show you a step-by-step, this is how I created this effect. I could have created this lava lamp last night and then gone, do this, and this. But you don't get to see my thought process and, you know, things failing or me just look deving stuff and developing this. You know, I started this very simple and I'm slowly building up that complexity. So you get to see all that stuff and there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of benefit in seeing that and learning how somebody starts an effect and builds it and makes it complex over time. So there's some weird stuff going on here. It's kind of all sticking at the top. So maybe my subtraction is not quite working. Let's have a look. So we've got at temp minus equals temp subtract. I'm in danger here of misspelling when I have such a long attribute name, but hopefully temp subtract, yeah, that's just all good. Yeah, your English is fine, TuneBar. Yeah, well, I mean, we have students from all over the world, which is great. You know, I really enjoy talking to people from every part of the world, which is really nice. Last time I worked from home, which is what I do now, I work from home. I was working on projects, and I didn't get to talk to people that much. It was kind of isolating. But I talk to people all the time now, all my students and you guys on the stream, which is great. It's yeah, it's really nice. And yeah, like we were saying before, the really cool community that we have at CGS now, which is, yeah, awesome. All right, so let's try and work out what is going on here. Here's my temperature value. Oh, look at that. We've got negative values. So our temp subtract is working. Look at that, going down, down, down. Let's do this. One more thing that we should do. At temp equals clamp at temp between 0 and 100. What this is going to do is just limit that temperature value. Hide all. Just show my temperature here. This is going to limit that temperature value now to between 0 and 100 so that I know that it's not going to go into the negative value and my fit is going to work here as well. Lower your cooldown spot. So, sorry, let me... lower your cooldown spot so the mass passes through it and has a chance to cool down. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I guess, you know, I could also increase the blend, John, so that that blend distance kind of comes down. Let's see. So here's my temp subtract. Ah, I see what might be going on here is that some of these are fighting. We've got... I think what's going on here is that even though I'm clamping this at 100, I've got values that are actually above that. So when the temp subtract kicks in, look, these are set to 1, but this isn't coming down. So maybe we should clamp, actually, that's what we should do. We should clamp it here. So I'll just copy that. And I'll put a clamp on here as well, before this next one gets calculated. Let's have a look at that. It's always... You know, even though the geometry spreadsheet is this daunting beast of, you know, numbers, it is really important to check this stuff. So that you can see, especially if you're doing maths. Here we go, it's coming down now. It's gone down to 99. So yeah, let's increase this blend width quite a bit. And I'll actually make this blue, so it's a bit easier to see. Yay for the spreadsheet. Yeah, hooray. Lower as in transform position. Yeah, okay. Oh, that's cool. I'm still yet to try that, David. But that's great that they have. I think, you know, being able to... Oh, here we go. Seeing that blue. Being able to visualize this information that you're creating is incredibly important. So maybe our temperature subtraction should be a little... It looks like... Oh, these ones are coming down. Look at these. Yeah, these ones are coming right down. Look at that. Right down to 0. Let's up this. -9. Let's make it proper gravity. -9.8. Yeah. Good idea, John. I think I might try next. If you know, I'm sure this method could get there. There's something off with the values, I feel. Oh, here we go. So there's bits falling, but they kind of get sucked back up again. It's really quite odd. Let me just turn off surface tension for a second, because sometimes that can be a bit too strong. Maybe that surface tension of 10 is a little bit strong and it's interfering with things. We can definitely see the rising effect working well. But this cooling effect is not. I would expect that to fall. Oh, there we go. That bit fell down. Shot down. I guess because of that high 9.8 gravity, it really kind of fell down. Why? I'm going to create a little marker here. Try and see if I can figure out what these values are doing. Temp. Here we go. Going to be a little hard to see. It's a lot of points. Ah, look, they're all 99. So they're actually not reducing much at all, which is weird. So let's create another marker here. Temp. I wonder if I have misspelt something, or no, because I'm getting a little bit of it happening. Temp, subtract. So we've got all these temp subtract values. They're all set to 1. So, no, they're not cooling down. I think that's good advice for anything, Adam. Not trying to learn the whole thing at once. You know, just take it step by step. Learn a little bit at a time. Minus equals at temp subtract. I mean, I could do this as well. Plus equals at temp subtract and set this to -1. Maybe I'll do temp s. Just to eliminate any potential spelling mistakes. Plus equals, and then that should give me a -1 value. Let me change this marker, temp s. There we go, -1, transferring that. Got lots of -1s. Now let's have a look at our... Okay, so we'll re-simulate, because that's probably just baked in. Give it a negative in y. Not cooling down. Give it a negative in y. Well, they should be... I don't know why they're not... Why these ones are all not reducing. It's weird. I'm getting a little bit of reducing happening. Very odd. What is going on here? Clamp. Maybe I'll just turn this clamp off. See if that makes any difference. Again, you can't really see out here. I suspect that maybe these clamps might be interfering with it. So what I might do instead of the clamp, I might put this in an if statement. So I'll say if at temp is less than 100, do that addition. And then it should just stop adding when it gets to 100. Let's see if that works. I'll just leave those clamps off for a second. I've got a good version of that donut that I did in Houdini with some cool droopy icing. Should show you how to do that one time. Well, we've got some different values going on, but again, I don't know, did I set my attribute transfer really low or something? Got this blend width going on. Maybe I'll up that distance as well. Crazy, what is going on here? Yeah, these are just not reducing. Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. Temp S equals -1. I mean, this should just be able to set it to 1. Here's my sphere with points. You know what? Maybe I should initialize this as well. I wonder if that's creating issues. It's always good to initialize those attributes when you're creating new ones in the Subsolver, like I am. Like I'm just making this up here and transferring it to our fluid. You want to kind of have it initialized on the fluid side already. So let's see, I'll set this back to -equals. Let's see if that could have been the problem. Everyone must make a donut. It's a rite of passage into the wonderful world of 3D. How do they show you how to make a donut in Blender? Do they show you how to actually... Oops, looks like nothing's working now. How do they show you how to create the kind of torus shape? Or is it there just a torus? Oh, look at this. I guess my attribute transfer is too large. Yeah, way too big. Or do they show you a more kind of interesting way of creating a torus? Or is it a very basic tutorial? I've never watched it, but a lot of people come to me with a donut. Yeah, okay. There is a Houdini version of that as well, isn't there? I think. I'm sure I've seen something like that. That's the one that people always come to me with. Nice cloth and particle sims for chocolate. Oh, cool. Donuts everywhere. Yeah, so this is just not falling. Although we see this bit falling down. I wonder, it's definitely our, let me just label this. So it's definitely our temperature attribute here is getting to this point and is not being reduced. So let's try and figure out what's going on here. So there's our temperature attribute at this point. And we're transferring this temp S. Let me just make sure, go through temp S, float. Let's check it at this point. Got to check everything now because nothing's working. Check it at this point, temp S, there we go. And then F at temp. Oh, and it is doing it once, but it's not doing it multiple times. So what the Subsolver is meant to do is to loop this every frame. So this should accumulate, just as this one is, in fact, is accumulating over time, raising it up to that 100 value. This one, for whatever reason, is not doing that. I'm just going to delete this attribute wrangle. start again. At temp minus equals at temp s. Okay. And again, I could do an if statement, so I could say if at temp is greater than 0, do that. So that will stop it going to negative values. And so play. So here's our temperature going up and up and up. And then our temp S should kick in at some point. Should see some of these going to 1s. Yeah, these just don't want to drop. Well, I'm stumped. I don't know why that's doing that. What the hell? What's this distance got on it? Very small distance. Temp plus equals temp add. Frustrating. I have no idea why. No, it's not the time. It's just not. It's only doing a subtraction once, John, and it's not accumulating that subtraction over time, which is really odd. I wonder. I don't think it's just that. Yeah, they're just getting one subtraction happening, and then it's just not continuing. I don't know. That's really, really odd. I will persevere. Got to solve it. Maybe there's some weird thing going on here. I don't know. Yeah, I mean that was one thing that I was thinking, Adam, is maybe that is what I have to do, is to move it to a different subsolver, but I shouldn't have to do that. But that may be the thing that I need to do to try and, it's a worth a shot to move that into a completely separate subsolver and see if that fixes it. Yeah, I mean, all those suggestions are great, John, but the issue that I want to try and fix is the fact that this cooling is not happening at all. So I'm just not seeing those values subtract at all, which is really, really weird. Less than 100 at temp plus equals at temp add. I think I know. Aha. Okay. So, this is what I think is happening. Here, I'm transferring temp add, right? Let's create my marker. Here's temp S. So let me label these so I know which one's which. This one's temp S. Let me create another one. The aha moment. Yes, that's right. Aha, I'm an idiot. No, I mean, this is the thing that happens when you start building these complex kind of systems, is that you think you're doing the right thing, but then you realize that actually there is something fundamentally wrong. And using all these visualizers and everything is the only way that we can kind of figure this stuff out. So I've created my temp add here. Hopefully it'll become clear. So what I've done here is transferred this temp add, and you can see that if I get rid of the blend, actually, you can see it a bit clearer. You can see all these ones and zeros here. But what I was assuming wrongly is that as soon as this leaves this area and rises up, what you see, I'm actually visualizing temperature here as well, is that all of these still have a temp add value of 1. They're not leaving that behind down there and setting back to 0. So what is going on is that as soon as this drops below 100, when this happens, this subtracts 1, this 1 is still on there and it adds it back. And they're just basically leveling out at 99 because that 1 is always present. And as soon as this drops below 100, it adds it again. And this one's subtracting it. So we're just sitting at this value of 99. What we need to do is just every frame set temp add to 0 again. I think. Hey Max, how's it going? It's the Australian Houdini guy. I'll take that. Alright, so let's see if this fixes it. I don't know. Did that make sense to everybody? That makes sense to me, but maybe not entirely to everybody else. So basically, while it's down the bottom and accumulating and getting that temp add value, the temperature is accumulating. But as soon as it leaves that space, that temp add is no longer adding. And now we'll see it falls back down. Aha! I got you. Yeah, so, you know, there we go. We should probably do that with the temp subtract as well, the temp S. So we'll do that. We'll do that at the top as well. So we'll say our temp S equals 0. Like that. I think that should be fine. We should probably add our clamps in as well now, so that we don't go over. Ta-da! Yes, that's right. Woohoo! That was ages ago. The Vegemite discussion. The beauty of these streams is that you can watch it on instant replay. And the beauty of being my student, Adam, is that I can share my file with you. But for anyone else that's in the CG Spectrum community, I'll put this file on the Houdini channel. You can grab it if you're interested. Sorry to everyone else. But look, it's working. That's great. So don't forget the Vegemite, Audrey. Let's turn on our surface tension, all the things we turned off, or I say we, you're all in it with me, but I turned them off because I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on. And that can be the most annoying thing, is like you just turn all this stuff off and it's still happening and you're like, what is going on? I'm just going to make this bounds a little smaller. If you have a really big bounds with flip, like if you left it at 50 by 50 and you do space G to zoom into this thing, it zooms to the bounds. So you can never zoom right in. All right, let's take a look at this thing. And then, what do we got? We've got 40 minutes left. It's not perfect by any means, but I'll try and refine the simulation a little bit, and then I might take a quick stab at rendering this in Redshift. Just for kicks. Probably, now we can turn down our gravity. What do we... Yeah, let's do... Probably just do something like that. now I've got my very own lava lamp in 3D that I can just sit and stare at. Thanks, Audrey. I'm glad. I'm glad even though you don't know what's going on, you're still getting something out of it. Yeah. And that's the cool thing, John, with Flip, is that even though, you know, heat, it's not a thing in Flip. I've created it. I've created that system for, you know, for cooling. And in fact, you know, I could just start the cooling immediately. Like I could always cool this, you know, in an attribute wrangle. I create different ones, but I could do it in the same one. But I could just always do if at temp is greater than 0, or I could set some other threshold there. At temp minus equals, I don't know, why don't we just subtract 0.1 from it? And then again, clamp that value. I actually don't need to, because it's going to be only applying this after above 0 anyway, so I don't need to do that clamp. But then this is just going to have a cooling effect anyway over time. That's right. I'll get the nag shampoo burning. Get my sitar out. I wish I had a sitar. That would be great. That'd be so cool. So this additional cooling in there might kind of help. Now I'm not getting the blobs, you know, that's what I really want. Maybe we can look at this again next week. To see if we can get a blobby effect happening. I should get a wig. Needs more tie-dyed wall hangings, yeah. All right, so I mean, this is cool. It's working. It's not doing the blobbing, you know, that I kind of really want to see, but it's something. It's there. So, and I could potentially, you know, my source as well. Like I could potentially change this to be multiple spheres. So, you know, maybe I create a couple of different ones, or perhaps within this one I do a points from volume, and I really hate how this has the guide geometry on it and you can't turn it off. It's like, it makes it really hard to see the points that you're creating. So let's go something like that. Oh, actually, what I'll do, instead of that, I'll use a VDB from polygons, and then I'll do a VDB to spheres. This has this really good kind of way of packing. Set my minimum radius. Oh, set my max radius actually. Packing spheres within an object. So you get something like that happening, and then I can kind of just pack that sphere with a bunch of spheres, turn those into points, and then maybe up my particle separation. Let's see what happens with these blobs. They may all just turn into mush anyway. This is a lot more tea mixed with weird berries. I like hearing everybody's mental picture of what a hippie is. So yeah, it all kind of blobs together. So one thing I was thinking with trying to keep the individual little blobs of wax separate was to create groups maybe in the source, and then somehow try to preserve or keep together that group within itself and not the other groups. I have no idea how to do that yet. But that's something we could look at some point. We could up the viscosity as well. That might be interesting. Just let's go 10,000. Why not? Viscosity is also something that we could change based on the temperature, which might give interesting effects as well. So that as it becomes hotter, it becomes a bit more viscous, or sorry, less viscous. And that becomes a bit stringier maybe, and maybe can release a few more blobs. You can see at viscosity of 10,000, it's maintaining those sphere shapes a lot more. It's not collapsing as much, which is kind of interesting. But they're also all stuck together. So blobby. So yeah, we could do that in here as well. We could say add viscosity equals, just copy this fit. Hey, no worries, John. Thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you later. Have a good day. So we could say at viscosity between 0 and 100. So actually I'm going to go, what do I want to do here? 0 and 100. Yeah, I guess. Let's go when it's 0. So that's when it's cool. What do we want it to be? Let's go with 100. And when it's... Oh, actually, other way. I want this to be 1,000 and 100. Let's try that. So the hotter it gets, the less viscous it gets. See what we get. Yeah, I think it's working. You can see those sphere shapes are disappearing, and it's becoming a lot more sort of blobby, and we should see a bit more stringiness now because it's cooled down. Oh, sorry, because it's hot and now it's cooling down, and it should kind of, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this range needs to be adjusted, or maybe we should start with something higher, 5,000, and we go. And maybe this range could be like 0 to, what do we want to do? 0 to 50, make it half. Good news is my camera hasn't frozen, which is great. I don't have to use this second camera. Hey, look at that. Maybe I should point it at something more interesting. We can just have the view of something else. Plant cam. Look at that. Alright, so yeah, that's kind of cool. Bit of viscosity change happening. I like that. Even we could not make our minimum temperature 0, we can make that a bit lower as well. So perhaps we could go like between 80 and 30, so that the temperature of the stuff at the top that's right. Let's see what the plant's up to. Yeah, so the temperature at the top doesn't have to get to 0 before it gets to that really high viscosity. It has to just drop to 30 or below. So that might be better. And maybe a little stickiness might be good. Let's try that. And then I'm going to create that kind of, I'm going to try and create now, well, once I surface it, we'll bring this out and I'll put a mesh on it. And then I'll just try and quickly create a kind of interesting shader. Waxy kind of shader. Just trying to think if I've done much subsurface stuff in Redshift. I can't remember if I have. But I will give it a go. So yeah, I think I'll switch back to the sphere. I think I liked that kind of better, that original shape. Was a little bit more satisfying. I mean, this is very slow simulation. It's 500 frames, so yeah, it's definitely not one you want to do super high resolution. But oh, there it goes, spinny blob. And you can see it getting stuck to the, well, that's kind of cool. You can see it getting stuck there. So maybe the slip-on collision. Oh, wow. Cool. I guess it just kind of hit some sort of peak with the values there and got kind of wedged. Oh, yeah. This is nice. Another thing we could look at adding is transfer. Hey, that's good. That's kind of what we want, where we get some falling and some rising. That's cool. I like it. We could do, also, we could put in there a transfer of hot, the particles that have a higher temperature to the particles that have low temperature, so that when a cool particle gets in proximity with a hot particle, they also heat up, or vice versa. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm happy with what happened there. Maybe it's just that extra little viscosity change that we had in there, that kind of has facilitated that. But that looks great. All right, enough of this silliness. Let's have a look at rendering quickly before we run out of time. I'm going to do a particle fluid surface. Now, a lot of the times when I surface flip, and what do we got here? Let's just check our resolution, 0.15. A lot of the times when I surface flip, I don't end up using this particle fluid surface because, I don't know, some of the controls on it aren't great and you're kind of limited. And it can be really slow as well. So I don't always use this, but I think this might be okay. Let's just see what we can get. So, oh yeah. Not too bad. There's a bit of kind of some weird sticking going on here, I think. Let's check out those particles. Oh no, we're losing a lot. That would be probably down to the droplet scale. I set too low. The mother lava. That's right. Look at that. You want to avoid things like this. I just saw there. See that? You want to try and avoid things like that happening with your surface. So that is probably caused by the influence scale here. Potentially these as well. So might just turn those off for a second. But no, you can see it's still happening. Whoop, come back. So the influence scale is a blending kind of thing that's happening between the particles. So you can see, as I take that down, that hole opens right up. And now, as I step forward, you see I don't get that. I'm getting a little bit of it here because these are very close together. But you can see I'm not getting that hole closing over on that one frame anymore. So that's good. You'll get it on really close stuff. And this is part of the reason why I don't always like using this one, but you can sort of try and balance these things. I usually, if I want to preserve a lot of detail, I usually have that really low and drop the droplet scale. Drop the drop. Voxel scale you can decrease to get a little bit more resolution as well. That can sometimes help with that stuff. And then it's a bit kind of what I would call porridgey looking, a bit lumpy. So I might just go and then turn on a bit more smoothing, and you've got this final smooth here that you can do that'll just smooth it all out. So that's not too bad. It's a little bit lumpy still, but I think that's okay. So I'm gonna hit save, and hopefully that doesn't lose my cache. It might. I find saving does some kind of... No, it's fine. All right, let's create a camera. Where's my original bottle? Here. Create a little camera here. And I'm just going to chuck a null down here. And say out bottle. Another geometry container here. Object merge. And What are we doing? Out bottle. There we go. So we need a fluid inside the bottle as well as the glass bottle itself. So we could duplicate that, poly extrude the bottle to give a kind of thickness like that. Let's turn on output back. So now we've got a kind of glass bottle with some thickness. Oops, I always do this with my cameras. I've destroyed it because I had the lock on. All right, turn that back on. So much regret. Yeah, the null method is a really good way. I should also name these nodes. If I rename this though, I'll lose my cache, so I won't rename that one. But this one could be called render bottle. And I'll actually just copy this geometry node, and then I've still got this object merge in here. Just get rid of that one. And this one can be render fluid. And I can actually put another null down here so that this geo container just becomes my working container. You can see it's already looking cool in the viewport. Out lava. And then I'll create another geometry container. So just, it does help to kind of split these things out like this, especially if you're wanting to render specific layers, turn things on and off, makes it nice and easy. This one will be render lava. Okay, I'm going to create an environment light. Oh, actually, no, I'm using Redshift. I'm going to use an RS light dome. And I will go and pick a HDRI from somewhere. Let's find one. Trawl my downloads directory for a suitably 1960s looking HDR. Do I have anything? Probably not. Bathroom. It's not very 1960s, but it is a good. I like this. I like this HDRI. Somebody's bathroom. Let's see what they brush their teeth with. But it has good lighting. It's got a nice bright window, and also a light above. I find that this gives. Oh, look at that. Nice shower mat. That's kind of 1960s. There we go. It gives a nice lighting, I find. So I'll use that. And then and then I'm going to also create a light, RS light, and I'm going to put it right below, because that's the way that these lava lamps work, because they have a light at the bottom. Everyone needs a bathroom lava lamp, that's right, just to set the mood. So light type, area, shape, rectangle. I'm going to do sphere. I'm going to take this size right down and then move it just below like that. We'll see if that works. Who knows? I might actually turn off the dome light, actually. I'll just use this light. And let's go to the out context. We'll use Redshift. And what am I going to do here? I'll just jump to my camera and set my resolution to HD. Go back out. And objects. Get rid of that star and candidate objects. And I'm just going to force. For starters, I'll just force the bottle. Let's just take a look at that. Make sure that's working. And then I'm just going to pick the RS light here. Shower onions. Shower onions. It makes me think of Seinfeld. Kramer washing his dishes and making salad in the shower. Open render view. Let's take a look at this. Beautiful. Look at that. Doesn't that look nice? We need to create some shaders. RS material. So I'm going to create 3 materials here. A glass, a liquid, and a lava. Yeah. So moody you can't see it at all. Alright, so glass. That is going to be So I'll set the diffuse. I just usually set that to black and turn the weight off. Reflection is 1. Refraction weight is 1. And then we have the index of refraction. 1.5 is probably fine. We might want to reduce that. So we'll put that on the bottle. Okay, let's check our render. See if it makes any difference. Probably won't. We might need to turn our environment light on a little bit. Wow, look at that. That is crazy. Interesting. You can see our light down here as well. I need to turn that to invisible. Let's just turn our environment light on a little bit. So I'll add that back in. I can just put a star in candidate again. Add that back in and then just turn that on a little bit. Well, I'll turn it on a lot, see what it looks like with it a lot. The good thing about having the environment light in is that you get these nice refractions as well, which is kind of cool. Now, I don't want this to show up in the render, so I'm going to turn off environment alpha channel replace. I'll set that to 0. And then, oh, actually, you know what I do? Backplate enabled with nothing in it. I think that's what you do. There we go. So the reason you do that instead of just turning off enable background is what you'll see is when I turn off enable background, I actually don't get the background refracting, which actually isn't too bad. We can see this in the reflections. That's the reflection showing up there. Maybe that doesn't matter, but I find quite often I do want the background showing up in the refraction. So if you turn on the backplate and leave it empty, it shows up in the refraction, but not in the render. So that's a good tip. All right, so this is crazy what's going on here. I think maybe we need to turn down our IOR. So we've got IOR linked to reflection here, but if we turn that off, we can set it to like 1.1. Yeah, it took me a while to figure that one out, Adam, but yeah, quite often when I'm doing refractive things like that, I do want the background showing up. There we go, taking the IOR down has fixed that little weird pattern that we were getting. Now let's do the liquid inside. So we've got render fluid. This one's going to be the /matte/liquid. Go out context. This one's going to be the fluid. Go to our material, liquid. So this one, again, black. I'm going to turn the reflection off. Refraction. I'm going to give this a color. Let's go. I'm going to go kind of orangey. Let's see what that looks like. Lovely. Okay. And lava. Oh, actually, let's put the bottle on first. So we've got to get those two things working together. There's a little bit of noise being created here. I'm wondering if that may be because of an intersection of surfaces, because the bottle and the fluid come from the same mesh. The bottle is just extruded out from that. These two inside surfaces lay in exactly the same spot. So I'm just going to put a peak down and peek in. Whoops. Oh, I guess it's reversed, so I need to do it the other way. I'm going to peek in slightly and see if that fixes that noise. Voila. Beautiful. So there we go. We've got our bottle. We've got our little orange fluid inside. Now, let's go to render lava. /matte/lava. Okay, so this one, I'm going to go for a contrasting color. Let's go kind of reddy orange, just a bit kind of brighter. So let's just do that for starters. I need to add it in. So here, this is why I call things render. I can just do render star, and that will wildcard everything called render. Oh yeah, look at that. So we've got no subsurface happening yet, but we're getting there. So let's go to our material, lava. Here's our subsurface here. Scatter scale. Let's set that to... Ooh. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done SSS here. Let's do transmittance color. Set that to kind of like a bright orange. Scatter scale. If I set that to 1, let's see what happens, just as a kind of way of testing what these values should be. Yeah, it does look like a specimen in a jar. Somebody's spleen after eating Vegemite. So let's put that on and see. Well, there we go, we're getting scattering here. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on the lava, first of all. And I'm going to turn off the dome light. So I can just focus on the scattering that's happening from this light below. So, okay, so this is a distance. I wasn't sure if this was a multiplier or a distance, but it is a distance. You can see I'm getting a lot of scattering happening here. So let's take this down. And you can see as I take that down, that scattering kind of reduces. Absorption scale. I don't know, let's play around with that. We've got these different kind of settings as well. I find that these are a little, like that the subsurface stuff is a little hard to dial in. Well, let's set this to general. Yeah, I find like compared to Mantra, this stuff is a little hard to dial in. Maybe this one is easier. Let's try that. Oh, there we go. Let's turn that radius down. Yeah, that's looking a little better. Layer 1. That's better. So I guess maybe this one doesn't work as well as this multi-scattering one does. This one gives you the ability to have different layers, but we probably only need, you know, one layer really. So we can play around with that scale to get more or less of that scattering effect. We want quite a bit of scattering, you know, this is wax, so you can, I think you can put that above 1 as well if you really want to crank it. It's not too bad. We can up the samples here too, so that should take out some of that noise. Why not do 5,709 and see what happens? It looks smooth. It's slow, but it's smooth. It's crazy to me that these sliders are so big in Redshift. It's like, it makes you think that, oh, maybe 65,000 is a reasonable number. Or maybe 5,000 is a reasonable number because it's very low on this slider. But it's very, very slow to render. So it's kind of weird that they are so big ranges. I mean, 5,000 looked good, but it's a little bit slow. So I'm just gonna, let's do 2048. Yeah, it's kind of cool. All right, let's go back and, oh, let's turn on the dome light first. Check this out. Got 9 minutes to spare. Am I gonna make it? Ooh, there we go. That's looking cool. Maybe the dome light. So, you know, we could turn that down. We could not have it as intense, so we could turn it down a little bit, you know, like that. So we get more of the light contribution from the light itself rather than the environment, but we still get a bit of refraction. Let's check out how the other objects render now. Yeah, it's not too bad. The light, I'm not getting a lot of light scattering from the actually one thing, let me just check. So one thing that I do on in Mantra shaders is for refractive objects you have this setting to do faux caustics, which is basically to turn off shadows for refractive objects. Doesn't look like I have that there. Let's check the Redshift object settings for visibility. Let's turn off cast shadows and see what kind of effect that has. Minimal. Doesn't seem to be. Receive shadows, cast shadows. Let's turn off receive shadows as well. See if that makes any difference. No, I guess not. I'm going to crank up my light here a little bit. I want to see this fluid get a little bit more illuminated. It's kind of, I guess one of the things is this fluid is not subsurface either, so it's not going to scatter light really. So we may need to, we could potentially try and add a little bit of subsurface quality to this fluid as well. Or we could try doing something different with that. This light, maybe, let me try moving this down a little bit, just out of camera view as well. In reality, this portion here below would be in a container as well, so we wouldn't necessarily see this bottom section. So that is probably fine, you know, not showing that. I'm going to turn off the dome light again, just to see what this looks like with the single light. Yeah, so that's the thing that's different, I guess, is you can't really see it. I mean, maybe you can. There's just an overall blue glow, but the fluid itself is kind of glowing as well. I wonder if we can simply just add a little bit of emission to that. Let's see. Transmittance. Overall emission. Let's just add a little emission here. What's that going to do? Might just flatten it a bit too much. Oh, yeah, it kind of works, but yeah, it's a bit too flat. It's not too bad, but I really want to see more of a brightness down here and a fall off towards the top. We could try subsurface. Let's just try that. Turn the emission off. Let's leave the radius really high. That's kind of made it go away. Let's turn the refraction off for a second, and I'll set my diffuse value. Copy, paste values, set my diffuse, and then, well, no, that does not work. Yeah, I guess we definitely need that. Transmittance. Do I need that to be on? Maybe. Oh, there's something interesting happening. One thing, you know, that I might try, which is kind of how SSS works anyway, is just to create a volume inside this bottle of density and render that. And that can kind of, that is like in Houdini anyway. I don't know about Redshift, but in Houdini, when you turn on SSS, at render time, it creates a volume and it scatters light through that volume and also then puts the surface reflections and all that stuff back on. But it is actually creating a volume, and that's how you get that effect. So, I mean, there we go. It's kind of doing something. And this one's using this version. So we could try and up that. And now that's just sort of scattering that light from that base light. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Let's just up this. finally, let's turn on a little bit of light from the dome. Yeah, so we're seeing a little bit more illumination down there from that one. It's not kind of perfect, not exactly what I would be going for, but I wonder if we can just crank this, what that gives us. Baby alien, yeah, it's it does look kind of weird. Let's choose a different frame and see what the other frames look like. I guess that is kind of the best moment in the sim at the moment. That one. Let's see what this other frame looks like. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. You know, it needs some work, but I think that's a good day's work. You know, we've kind of got a sim it's getting there in terms of the behavior. You know, I think if you let this run even longer, you know, if we just excuse me, if we just go crazy with the time, go crazy, and just let it run and just see what happens. You might get some really cool kind of results there. But yeah, anyway, we're out of time, so I made it. I kind of got the ideas out that I had about how I might achieve this. Yeah, look, in Mantra, very similar approach, really. You just need to look at those specific kind of settings. Sorry, I'm about to. I can feel a coughing fit coming on. But yeah, you'd be able to do this in Mantra easily. I would find it a lot easier to do in Mantra. I find doing this stuff in Redshift sometimes can be challenging. But I use classic shaders with Mantra. It's I find for this type of stuff and for subsurface and refractive things, the classic shader is good. Some googly eyes, yeah, that's a good idea, Audrey. But yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed my lava lamp. I might keep working on it, or I might just wait. Looks like the extra 500 frames haven't been super awesome. It's just kind of blobbing around now. But yeah, I might finish it off or do some more stuff next week. And yeah, thanks for joining me, everybody. I'm gonna have to go because I am gonna cough. But I'll see you guys next week.